Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out the complete travels of Aragorn, Tolkien explained by Nerd of the Rings. Yes guys, this was recommended to me by our Prefect Fear, of course, so big thank you to you Fear. I appreciate the recommendation as always. And yeah, much like the last the complete travels I guess series that we checked out, last video of the series we checked out, which was on Gandalf. That was an awesome video, go check that out if you haven't. I really love this series, just the way how engaging it is, you know. Nerd of the Rings does a fantastic job leading you around the map, telling you what the characters get up to. I don't know a whole lot about Aragorn, so that's going to be, I know, a little bit of heresy to some people. I don't know a whole ton of him. I don't remember a whole ton of him. Again, it's been so long since I've seen the movies, and I haven't read any of the books, unfortunately. So you know, we're gonna be going into this kind of blind in terms of him. Obviously, with Gandalf, I knew a little bit more going into that video. Impossible not to know a few deeds at least of Gandalf. You know what I'm saying? At least in like terms of the Hobbit, I know what he gets up to a lot in that. I remember the Hobbit movies a lot more than I do the Lord of the Rings. Again, I probably watched those movies when I was like probably like 5 or 6, you know what I'm saying? I really haven't seen them since, unfortunately, you know, so I need to check them out for sure. But yeah, no, I'm excited to check this one out. Yeah, big thank you to all of our members, of course, all of our Hastati, our Principes, of course, Dagenhart and Hobbit, and of course our Prefect Fear. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, you guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day. And with that, guys, I say we get right into this video, the complete travels of Aragorn, Nerd of the Rings. Yeah, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more content, and without any further delay, captions are, I believe, already on. Yes, quality is 1440p. That's what we like to see, full screen, and let's get it.
Today's video is brought to you by Slide Belts, creators of high-quality
starting off with the ad first off. Nice.
Ratcheting buckles. Not only do they make my personal favorite belt, the survival belt, but they're also longtime viewers of the channel.
I love camping,
I've
so
used Slide Belts for some time now, and honestly, they make a fantastic product. It also makes a great gift since you can buy one size and trim it to fit. Be sure to stick around to the end of the video for a special discount code for my viewers, redeemable at slidebelts.com.
Discount code.
Heir of
We'll keep an eye out for that.
Chieftain of the Dunedain, and destined to reunite the great kingdoms of men. After a traumatic childhood, decades of wilderness and war, and finally reclaiming the throne, he would go on to serve his realm in his second century of life. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover the complete travels of Aragorn. Aragorn II is born on March 1st, 2931 of the Third Age. Okay. To his father, Arathorn II, and mother, Gilrain. Gilrain's mother, Evorwen, had convinced her husband to allow the marriage despite his objections. With
what were the objections?
Foresight, she had proclaimed that from their marriage, hope might be born for the Dunedain, and that their son would one day wear a green stone upon his breast. When Aragorn is just 2 years old, his father is killed, shot in the eye by an orc arrow. Gilrain takes her son to Rivendell to be fostered by Elrond.
Okay, wow, so already kind of a goated like upbringing here. You can kind of already see where this is going, right? I love like the classical like Tolkien like storytelling, you know what I'm saying? Like just the way it is done. And you know, Tolkien again was the original like fantasy writer, you know what I'm saying? He came up with a lot of like the shit we see now modern day, which is awesome to see, you know. Or at least he expanded upon it into a way that really propelled it into the modern setting as we know it, right? And, you know, the classic, like, your father died at a young age. He's kind of like, you know, his widowed mother now has to seek refuge elsewhere. And this is with Elrond, right? A completely goated character in terms of Lord of the Rings lore. I know that much, of course. So we'll see how this goes. I'm sure he's probably going to absolutely foster this kid into complete, like, maturity. Let's see here.
Over the years, this had become a custom for the heirs of Isildur to be fostered in Rivendell for a time. With his father slain, Elrond would care for Aragorn as if he were his own son.
Right.
For the child's safety, Elrond would keep his identity a secret, instead calling him Estelle, the Cinder word for hope. In his early years, Estelle would often go on journeys with Elrond's twin sons, Elladan and Elrohir. The twins had also earlier been
to anyone that may want to like hunt this kid down eventually. I was gonna say, you know, the word for hope. I mean, listen, that's not really like, you know, maybe they don't know the language, of course, and that's definitely probably what it is. But it's just like, fuck, that's not very, you know, it's kind of telling, you know, if you're trying to be like subtle, you know, let's say.
Elladan and Elrohir. The twins had also, years earlier, been on the hunt with Arathorn when he was killed.
Bunch of my papers just fell over there, Jesus.
In 2952, when Estelle is around 20 years old, he returns to Rivendell from a journey of great deeds with Elladan and Elrohir. Elrond is pleased to see that Estelle has grown to be both fair and noble, and that he was coming to manhood early. Thus, Elrond reveals to Estelle his true name, Aragorn, son of Arathorn, heir of Isildur. Elrond presents to him the heirlooms of the Dunedain of the North, the shards of Narsil, and the ring of Barahir.
Okay.
There is one final heirloom, the scepter of Annúminas, the original capital of the northern kingdom of Arnor, established by Elendil himself. Elrond withholds the scepter from Aragorn, saying he must first earn it. The following day, Aragorn is walking alone in the woods.
And then it's like the classic like hero's journey. You have to earn it, right? I love that too. You know, like the story of like the hero's journey is so classic. You know, it's really just entrenched in like, you know, literature and just storytelling in general, all types of media in general. By example of that, right? And it's awesome to see characters go on that, especially in this classic like high fantasy setting, you know, this Tolkien setting. Again, I'm really like, I guess, disappointed in myself that I never got to read like the Lord of the Ring books as like a kid. You know, I just never owned them, I guess. You know, I read a lot of books, don't get me wrong, I read a ton when I was a kid. I just unfortunately never got those ones, you know. But it is what it is, right? I've since obviously listened to like the Hobbit like audiobook, and I have read the Hobbit like actual book, like the paper book. That was a couple of years ago now. That was a long time ago now, but I've recently listened to the audiobook again because it's a great book. Yeah, no, I really need to check out some more like in-depth like, you know, Lord of the Rings lore, I guess. I just really need to watch the movies, I think. Maybe read the books a little bit more and just get a feel for the universe again in general. Because, like, I love this setting so much, and I'm, you know, I just find, like, the concepts in Lord of the Rings super, super interesting.
Earn it. The following day, Aragorn is walking alone in the woods at sunset. His heart is full of hope, and he begins to sing the Lay of Luthien, the very song Aragorn sings in the Fellowship of the Ring film. As he wanders in the woods, he comes across an elf maiden, and to Aragorn she seems as Luthien herself, widely known to be the most beautiful person to have ever lived.
Interesting.
Fearing that she would leave, and he would never see her again, he calls to her, Tinuviel, Tinuviel, just as Beren had done when he first met Luthien. The elf corrects him, for she is not Luthien reborn, but Arwen, daughter of Elrond. She had just returned from a long visit in Lorien with her grandparents, Galadriel and Celeborn. Aragorn,
getting it on with an elf, I see.
Lineage, feels as though it is nothing compared to her dignity and loveliness. We are told that Gilrain opposes the idea of Aragorn and Arwen being together, for she believes Arwen's lineage is more noble, and that elves and men should not intermarry.
I see.
Ironically, both Aragorn and Arwen are descended from two such unions, Beren and Luthien, and Tuor and Idril. Likewise, Elrond would learn of Aragorn's love for his daughter, not from Gilrain or from Arwen, but he says he can see the truth in Aragorn's eyes. He summons...
So very, very interesting how, like, you know, like, obviously the higher nobility, yeah, it kind of, like, isn't all into, like intermarriage between, like, the species, right, I guess? And I guess I could kind of see that from their perspective, from, like, a conservative elf perspective, like, why you might not... As bad as that is to say, I can maybe, like, see that, right? But, like, yeah, no, it's just kind of crazy that they themselves are like the product of that, and yet they still aren't into it. Now, I don't know how many generations removed this is, and we might be talking quite a few here, but, you know, elves live a long time in Lord of the Rings, to my understanding, like a long fucking time. So I feel like that has to be like somewhat common, at least, you know what I'm saying? To some degree, it's got to be relatively common, like intermingling of these different races, I'd have to assume, right?
But he says he can see the truth in Aragorn's eyes. He summons Aragorn and tells him, "A great doom awaits you. either to rise above the height of all your fathers since the
I just want to talk to him, guys. I just want to talk to him.
or to fall into darkness with all that is left of your kin. Many years of trial lie before you. You shall neither have wife nor bind any woman to you in troth until your time comes and you are found worthy of it. Elrond says the future will bring what it may, and that they will not speak of this topic for many years.
That's hilarious. Basically, you're not marrying my daughter. I don't want you to fucking see her. Grow a pair, grow some fucking hair on your chest, and come back later is basically what he told him. You need to fucking earn it, boy. God damn, dude. No, I get what he's saying, though. I get what he's saying, but it's just funny to think of it in like that context. He's like literally like, you need to go fucking prove yourself a little bit more before you're worthy of her. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my daughter, motherfucker. Like,
will bring what it may, and that they will not speak of this topic for many years, and that days of darkness lie ahead. Aragorn lovingly takes his leave of Elrond. He bids farewell to his mother,
no, he raised him, so I understand it.
And to Arwen. And
I know, it's just funny to think about it.
Aragorn takes up his mantle as 16th chieftain of the Dunedain, and in 2956 of the Third Age, meets Gandalf the Grey for the first time.
God damn.
The two would go on to become great friends. It is Gandalf who advises Aragorn to keep watch over the region of the Shire, where he would become known as Strider. From 2957 to 2980, Aragorn goes on many great journeys, aiding the men of the West against Sauron. So as not to reveal his identity, he goes by the name of Thorongil, a name Gondorians called him, meaning Eagle of the Star.
Interesting.
He wore a silver star upon his cloak and was known for being keen-eyed.
So this motherfucker has just been like out like gathering aura, essentially, you know what I'm saying? He's just been out fucking, you know, fighting forces of evil, you know, he's been out killing orcs left, right, and center, aiding where he can, mostly in Gondor, aiding the armies of men. It's respectable, man. It's respectable. And like, I've heard the name Strider. I was like, okay, yeah, that's, you know, I recall that for sure. So that's awesome to see. Obviously, same guy. I think I'm pretty sure I kind of already knew that going into this, but it's good to confirm that. You know, I didn't want to misspeak.
He wore a silver star upon his cloak and was known for being keen-eyed. He would first come to Rohan, where he would serve under King Thengel, the father of Theoden. Thorongil would ride with the Rohirrim for some time, until hearing a summons from Gondor, requesting aid of any men who are willing. He travels to Minas Tirith, coming to serve the steward Ecthelion II, father of Denethor. Thorongil's arrival, and his deeds on both land and sea, would cause a rift with Denethor, for it is said that Ecthelion trusted
I love the illustrations,
Thorongil most. Among Thorongil's counsels to the steward is that he should not trust the wizard Saruman, but instead Gandalf the Grey.
That's pretty based advice.
To Denethor, who did not trust Mithrandir. Not only was it so with his father, but Denethor also finds himself placed second to Thorongil in the hearts of the men of Gondor as well, bringing about a resentment that would last for decades to come. While Thorongil is known for great deeds and leadership during his time in Gondor, we are only told of one particular battle in 2980, his last in Gondor for many long years. Ecthelion had been anticipating an attack from Sauron, for it had been nearly 30 years since Sauron had declared himself openly once again in Mordor, and it was only a matter of time until he moved against his closest neighbor. Thorongil counsels the steward, saying the corsairs of Umbar would wreak havoc upon the southern fiefs should Sauron move against them.
That would make sense.
Gives Thorongil leave to take some Gondorian vessels south in an attempt to deal with this great threat.
So I like how we're also getting like a bit of like naval warfare too, and I love like how smart it is that like obviously you have river systems and they straight up will just sail down the rivers too, so it still like allows for like fleet capabilities, fleet building potential, even like not on the seaboard here, which is super smart. And I'm really glad like the world makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Like, because a lot of like fantasy novels, a lot of sci-fi novels, and even like you see these adaptations into movies a lot of the time too, the world just doesn't make sense as it should, right? Like people just don't utilize the environment what they should have properly. So it's really awesome to see like straight up like forces being used smartly in literature. Obviously, Tolkien, he was I believe a First World War veteran. So he was a smart guy, and he was college educated or university educated, I believe. I'm pretty sure he was. I don't know. I could correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he was of the officer rank. He was, probably an LT or a captain or something in World War One. I don't know if he was an NCO or not. I could be wrong. Somebody let me know. Or a CO or not. I could be wrong. He might have just been like just a regular, line troop. I'm not too sure. But no, it's just awesome to see like his actual like how smart he is and how he built this world around it. It's great to see just the amount of lore actually in Lord of the Rings. I think it's awesome.
Take some Gondorian vessels south in an attempt to deal with this great threat. Thorongil leads the navy to the Gulf of Umbar, catching the Corsairs by surprise. They burn and destroy many Corsair ships, and Thorongil himself kills the captain of the Haven of Umbar in battle. He then withdraws his forces, having suffered only a few losses. Thanks to this attack, the threat of Umbar would be diminished for several years, protecting Gondor from naval attack. Though he would be honored greatly for his deeds should he return to Gondor, Thorongil leaves his men when they stop at Pelargir. He sends word to Ecthelion that other tasks now called to him. The last his men would see of Thorongil is him heading toward the Mountains of Shadow. The men of Gondor feel a great loss at the departure of Thorongil, all save Denethor. As Denethor would soon ascend to the role of steward, Aragorn spends the following years traveling to distant lands, as we are told in the Lord of the Rings appendices. And then
I've never heard of
in the
that.
hour of victory, he passed out of the knowledge of men of the West.
Oh, really?
And went alone far into the east and deep into the south, exploring the hearts of men, both evil and good.
Interesting.
And uncovering the plots and devices of the servants of Sauron. It is said that his work in these years would help ensure...
Yeah, because I don't think there is, and I could, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe there's a lot of lore on, like east of, east of Middle-earth, I guess, right? Like, east of that continent. Like, I don't, because the map kind of ends, and then you don't really see anything else. Yeah, I wonder what's out there. That's kind of crazy to think about. He just kind of, like, wandered east, and... I'm assuming got up to some shit. I don't know if he passes here or not, but I mean, I'm sure we're gonna find out. But fuck, like that's really interesting. I've never thought about it.
Good, and uncovering the plots and devices of the servants of Sauron. It is said that his work in these years would help ensure the survival of the West decades later during the War of the Ring. Finally, in mid-2980, Aragorn makes his way home toward Rivendell. En route, he stops for a time in Lorien, where Galadriel tells him to cast aside his way-worn raiment, giving him clothes of silver and white. Aragorn now appears to be more than any kind of men, but rather an elf lord from the Isles of the West.
Damn.
Unbeknownst to Aragorn, Arwen is once again visiting her grandparents at this same time.
Convenient.
The now 49-year-old mortal man once again meets the one whom he loves. They would walk together for a time in the glades of Lothlorien, until it is time for Aragorn to depart. They come to the hill of Carin Emroth, where they look east to the shadow and west to the twilight. And Arwen said, "Dark is the shadow, and yet my heart rejoices, for you, Estelle, shall be among the great whose valor will destroy it." But
Damn.
Aragorn answered, "Alas, I cannot foresee it, and how it may come to pass is hidden from me. Yet with your hope, I will hope, and the shadow I utterly reject. But neither, lady, is the twilight for me, for I am mortal, and if you will cleave to me, even star, then the twilight you must also renounce." And she stood then as still as a white tree, looking into the west, and at last she said, "I will cleave to you, Dunedain, and turn from the twilight." Together, they plight their troth, and Aragorn gives to Arwen the ring of Barahir as a ring of betrothal. Aragorn returns to Rivendell.
Oh, I bet he plighted her troth. All right, that's oh yeah, 100%. No, that's good to see for him though, and it's cool that like finally like a relationship that's kind of been fostering for a while. They haven't really seen each other a ton, obviously, but like obviously by this point he's done a lot in his life. He is just a mortal man though still, which is very like, you know, the closest reference I can really have to this is like kind of like with the Mass Effect series with like the Acari basically. You know, obviously they lived like a long ass time, 1,000 years basically if you played the games, right? And you can see them like have relationships with other races in a sense, and like it is like a topic of conversation, like is it worth getting into a relationship with somebody that's only going to live for 100 years when you live 1,000, right? Like it's just kind of like one of those things, right? And it's an interesting like idea that's kind of brought up, and it's cool that like, you know, Tolkien so many years before obviously kind of thought up of this idea, right? And like what do you make of it, right? Like it is a difficult conversation, but I think if you obviously love somebody enough, then it's the right call to make, but it is still difficult at the same time, you know. It's definitely a hard choice.
Rivendell, where Elrond has learned of his daughter's choice. When Elrond learned the choice of his daughter,
was he upset?
He was silent,
Oh.
though his heart was grieved, and found the doom long feared none the easier to endure. And when Aragorn came to Rivendell,
So he was
called
upset.
to him, and he said, "My son, years come when hope will fade, and beyond them little is clear to me, and now a shadow lies between us. Maybe it has been appointed so, that by my loss the kingship of men may be restored. Therefore, though I love you, I say to you, Arwen Undomiel shall not diminish her life's grace for less cause. She shall not be the bride of any man less than the king of both Gondor and Arnor.
I
To me
see.
then, even our victory can bring only sorrow and parting, but to you hope of joy for a while.
Holy shit.
Alas, my son, I fear that to Arwen the doom of men may seem hard at the ending. So it stood.
That's a pretty fucking big ask. You need to go out and conquer a double kingship, motherfucker, or you're not good enough, basically, is what he just said to the 49-year-old man who just, you know, for lack of a better word, boned his daughter, right? And they're not married, I'm assuming, by this point, right? It's not like, it's not official, right? Like, you know, so it's kind of like, you know, Elrond here is just kind of like, you motherfucker, like, I respect you, you're a good dude, like, you know, I love you as a son, kind of thing already. I have for many years, but like, brother, like, we're a ancient elf lineage, like, she's too good for you unless you go out and fucking put some meat on the table, you know what I'm saying? Fucking, I need to see titles, motherfucker. Like, literally. Like, that's what needs to happen. You need to be that good. So that's a really, really fucking big ask. I can imagine the pressure on Aragorn here is probably going to be kind of insane for that. Like, holy shit, you know? Because obviously he doesn't want to let Elrond down either, right? Like, it is the hero's journey, right? Like, he's going to face trials and tribulations, and will he come out on top in a Tolkien sense? I feel like he might, but let's see, right?
I fear that to Arwen the doom of men may seem hard at the ending. So it stood afterwards between Elrond and Aragorn, and they spoke no more of this matter. But Aragorn went forth again into danger and toil. And while the world darkened and fear fell on Middle-earth, as the power of Sauron grew and Barad-dûr rose ever taller and stronger, Arwen remained in Rivendell. And when Aragorn was abroad, from afar she watched over him in thought, and in hope she made for him a great and kingly standard, such as only one might display who claimed the lordship of the Númenóreans and the inheritance of Elendil.
I see.
Just over 20 years later, in 3001 of the Third Age, as Sauron continues to regain his power in Mordor, Aragorn takes on a new task, assisting Gandalf in searching for news of the creature Gollum. This is the very year of Bilbo's 111th birthday, and Gandalf has come to suspect that what is now Frodo's ring may in fact be the one.
Right.
6 years later, in 3007...
So that's the start of Lord of the Rings, essentially, right there. Okay, I got you. I do recall Bilbo's birthday, of course.
In fact, be the one.
Let's see.
6 years later, in 3007... Aragorn returns briefly to Eriador.
So he's a lot
visits
older
his
in the
mother
books.
For the last time. She tells him that it will be their last parting, saying that she cannot face the darkness that gathers upon Middle-earth, for she will leave it soon. Aragorn attempts to comfort his mother, saying there may yet be light beyond the darkness. In her final words to her son, Gilrain says, Onen iestel edain, ukebin estel anim, meaning, I gave hope to the Dunedain. I have kept no hope for myself. Notice the first instance of Estelle is capitalized here. She did not simply give hope to the descendants of Numenor, she gave her son.
I see.
And in one of my favorite deep cut moments of the films, Elrond and Aragorn recite these very words, a reference to Gilrain, the mother of Aragorn, who died seeing only the darkness that lied upon the path her son must trod. After searching intermittently for many years, Aragorn finally overtakes.
It's adding a lot of context. I really like this a lot.
2017. He goes north through the Emyn Muil in an effort to avoid detection by Sauron's spies. He then crosses the great river Anduin at Sangabir by tying Gollum to a log and swimming across the river. They proceed along the edges of Fangorn Forest.
Fucking hog ties Gollum, you motherfucker.
On their arrival, the elves of Lorien send word to Gandalf of Gollum's capture. But Aragorn's journey is not yet complete. He and Gollum proceed along the Anduin northward, and with the help of the Beornings, they enter Mirkwood, finally coming to Thranduil's halls. He turns Gollum over to the Elven King to be held captive for Gandalf's interrogation.
Oh shit.
Aragorn had traveled some 900 miles on foot with Gollum in tow.
That's pretty crazy.
This long journey, Aragorn returns.
That is a long ass trip to have to take with fucking Gollum in tow, bro. Like, I would lose my fucking mind so often at him. But like, I imagine like the fucking gratification for doing so would be immense. Also for Gandalf's fucking interrogation, bro, Gandalf is gonna come in and bust some fucking kneecaps, bro. Like he's gonna be ruthless, I imagine. Definitely not, obviously, but that would be so fucking funny. He just comes in with a fucking baton, you know what I'm saying? Like, Gollum, do you have any words to say? Gollum will never talk. Just fucking, you know what I'm saying? Against the shins. Fuck.
Foot with Gollum in tow. After this long journey, Aragorn returns to Eriador and his Dunedain. He would next meet Gandalf at Sarn Ford in May 3018. There, Gandalf tells Aragorn of his plan for Frodo to leave the Shire bearing the ring in late September.
I see.
As summer wanes and September finally comes,
because things are a lot more spread out in the books, right?
Gildor that Gandalf has gone missing, and the Nazgul have been seen.
Right.
He also learns that Frodo has left Hobbiton.
Because that's what I remember about the movies, right? In the movies, this like all seems like it happens in like the span of like a week, right? Like from the time of like, you know, Bilbo's birthday to the time of like Frodo leaving. It feels like it happens very quickly. In the books, it's like a lot of shit fucking goes on in between, right? Like a lot of stuff happens. And there's a lot more like context given, a lot more stuff given, and it's years that is the difference, right? Not just like a week, whatever have you, right? I will say like that is like, I think, and it's unfortunate because like obviously the movies are already hours long, right? Like they did a fantastic, I think James Cameron, you know, from any James Cameron film that I've seen, he blows it out of the water. I do recall parts of the first movie. I don't recall any of the second or third, I'll be completely frank, but James Cameron, any film I've seen from him, he always blows it out of the water. It's usually a great film. So yeah, you know, I how are you going to make it longer? You know what I mean? Like it's already like a huge budget movie for Hollywood at that time. And, you know, 3 hours for a film in the theaters, like, you know, I can understand it, and that's obviously why they made more movies. But you can only add so much context in that time frame, I feel like.
Nazgul have been seen. He also learns that Frodo has left Hobbiton, but there is no news of him leaving Buckland. Aragorn anxiously watches over the East Road with his rangers, looking for signs of the Ring-Bearer. Finally, on September 29th, 4 halflings enter the Prancing Pony in Bree, as the ranger Strider sits in the corner. After Frodo stands on a table and sings a song in an effort to prevent Pippin from revealing the story of Bilbo's disappearance, the Hobbit falls and vanishes before everyone's eyes. Strider confronts Frodo about the foolishness of his actions and would meet the hobbits in their room that night. He warns them of the danger of the Black Riders, tells them that he is a friend of
You're all a
Gandalf,
bunch of idiots,
and shows them
you're
the
going to
whole
die if
shard
you fuck
of
around.
Narsil, the blade that was broken. As Barlam and Butterbur delivers a letter from Gandalf he had forgotten to send to Frodo 3 months earlier, which supports Strider's claims, the Ranger requests only that Frodo accept him as his guide to Rivendell. This results in one of the funniest exchanges in all of The Lord of the Rings. "Well, you know your own business, maybe," said Butterbur, looking suspiciously at Strider.
Butterbur's a crazy name.
"If I was in your plight, I wouldn't take up with a ranger." "Then who would you take up with?" asked Strider. "A fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shouted at him all day?"
Holy
Frodo
shit.
agrees to take Strider on as their
Just
guide.
roast the shit
They
out of
head
him? Oh my
east from
god.
Bree, passing through Chetwood, the Midgewater Marshes, and the Weather Hills, arriving at Weathertop on October 6, 3018. There they find a stone with strange markings. Aragorn deduces that it is the G rune with 3 strokes, interpreting this to mean that Gandalf was present on Weathertop on October 3rd.
I see.
That evening, they would come under attack by 5 of the Nazgul. The other 4 had gone in pursuit of Gandalf after their encounter at this very spot 3 nights before. After Frodo is stabbed, Aragorn drives the Nazgul away, brandishing a flaming brand of wood in either hand. Aragorn does what he can for the wounded hobbit, treating him with Ethelas, after singing a slow song in Sindarin over the dagger hilt of the Nazgul.
Holy
Aragorn
shit.
continues to lead the hobbits.
So Aragorn is like definitely part elf. So I imagine like he still has some type of magical like capability to him. Cause I know like obviously Gandalf, like he's human, question mark. He's something, right? Gandalf is something. And he's fucking a high level magic user, obviously, but you do see like the average human, I feel like, not possess like any type of magical capability. The hobbits, I don't believe do at all. So I think certain races definitely have more of like an attunement, Jesus Christ, attunement for it than other races. Somebody let me know like the specifics on that though. I'd be really interested to know.
Sindarin over the dagger hilt of the Nazgul. Aragorn continues to lead the hobbits toward Rivendell for the next 12 days. They encounter the 3 trolls from Bilbo's adventure before they come across the elf lord Glorfindel on the evening of October 18th. As they continue their journey, they are waylaid by the Nazgul on October 20th. Glorfindel sends Frodo forth on his horse Asphaloth, while he, Aragorn, and the other hobbits come behind bearing torches.
Damn, Frodo's riding a horse? Damn.
The river Bruinen.
Frodo must be a big boy for a hobbit.
The river rises against the servants of the enemy, who are swept away. Their steeds killed, they are left to return to Mordor on foot. Aragorn would then bring Frodo to Rivendell, where he is healed of his Morgul wound by Elrond. 5 days later, Aragorn would attend the Council of Elrond.
Yeah, see, like, he takes him to Elrond, and Elrond just fucking snaps his fingers and is like, bro, you're alive. Wake up. like, I imagine, like, these elves just have, like, just some crazy shit going on with their magical capabilities, their healing capabilities. You see them obviously have a lifespan much, much longer than that of the average human, I feel like, or hobbit, or anything else, really, I think, to my knowledge, right, so far. So their capabilities must just be fucking insane, plain and simple.
5 days later, Aragorn would attend the Council of Elrond, where he is revealed to be the heir of Elendil to the wider group. When Boromir looks upon Aragorn with doubt, Bilbo is annoyed on his friend's behalf. Suddenly standing, he bursts out, "All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king." Not very good perhaps, but to the point. If you need more beyond the word of Elrond, if that was worth a journey of 110 days to hear, you had best listen to it. He sat down with a snort. And indeed, the blade that was broken would be reforged there in Rivendell. Aragorn renames it Andúril, the Flame of the West.
That looks like a badass sword.
Would reveal
I just want to like take a look at that real quick. That looks fucking badass. I really like the gold and blue accent on that the fucking the star at the front there, all the rune. I'm guessing that's like Elvic rune. Like on the side there, it looks fucking sick. And look at that scabbard too. Like the blue accent on it is insane. I would get me one of those if I could.
Andúril, the Flame of the West. Later, Elrond would reveal to Frodo that Aragorn was to be part of his company departing Rivendell. The original intent was that Aragorn and Boromir would travel with the Fellowship while their paths were the same, and that the two men would return to Gondor to assist the Kingdom of Men.
That makes sense.
Aragorn and Gandalf would spend much time together in Rivendell, speaking of their road and analyzing maps and books of lore in the House of Elrond. The Fellowship departs on December 25th, 3018, making their way south, where they must choose among three paths.
Right.
The Redhorn Pass over the Misty Mountains, the Lost Kingdom of Moria beneath the mountains, or the Gap of Rohan. With Saruman's treachery, the Gap of Rohan is not safe.
That makes sense.
Aragorn encourages the group to take the Redhorn Pass. They would encounter heavy blizzards and be forced to turn back in defeat on January 12th, 3019. When the option of Moria comes up once more.
So Moria, like I obviously know a little bit about Moria too, not obviously, but I do know a little bit about Moria. I recall briefly what happens there. You know, they get ambushed essentially. That's where the Balrog is, if I recall. Yeah, so that really was their only choice. They got, the passage wasn't safe. They tried to go through the mountain range, through the Misty Mountains. That didn't work. So you're really left with only one alternative open to them at this point that's going to make decent time. So yeah, I mean, what do you do, right?
12th, 3019. When the option of Moria comes up once more, Aragorn notes that he had once passed through that dark realm on his own. I too once passed the Dimril Gate, said Aragorn quietly, but though I also came out again, the memory is very evil.
Wow.
I do not wish to enter Moria a second time. In one last effort to dissuade Gandalf, he says, "You followed my lead almost to disaster in the snow, and have said no word of blame. I will follow your lead now, if this last warning does not move you. It is not of the ring nor of us others that I am thinking now, but of you, Gandalf. And I say to you, if you pass the doors of Moria, beware." Eventually, Aragorn and the rest of the company would...
So he knows there's something powerful down there that, like, if Gandalf, like, how powerful he is, goes down there, whatever's down there is probably going to want a piece kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a trophy as far as whatever's down there is concerned. And doesn't he basically just, like, fight fucking this Balrog for days on end? Like, isn't it a fucking insane fight from what we learned last time? Yeah, so... It's very telling that Aragorn kind of already knew this, he sensed something down there. Last time he passed through, yeah, that shit was fucked up. You know what I mean? I don't want to go back, and I'll do it because like it needs to be done, but just like let this warning sit with you. I'm just gonna fair warn you, shit's fucked if we go there, and I respect him for it.
Moria, beware. Eventually, Aragorn and the rest of the company would relent to Gandalf's will to pass through Khazad-dûm, after they are attacked by wolves in the early hours of January 13th. After 2 days of traveling the Dark Realm, Gandalf falls in his face-off with the Balrog upon the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
There it is.
After the company flees the mountain and weeps for the loss of Gandalf, Aragorn would lead them onward. "Alas, I feel we cannot stay here longer," said Aragorn. He looked toward the mountains and held up his sword. "Farewell, Gandalf," he cried. "Did I not say to you, if you pass the doors of Moria, beware? Alas, that I spoke true. What hope have we without you?" He turned to the company. "We must do without hope," he said. "At least we may yet be avenged. Let us gird ourselves and weep no more. Come, we have a long road and much to do." Aragorn leads the Fellowship to Lothlorien.
That was a good speech, honestly. That was a good quote, because it shows man, we really fucking were hoping that Gandalf would be here. We really, really needed him to be MVP, carry us through. Without him, what are we gonna do? And you see it really kind of force Aragorn to kind of assume responsibility, assume leadership of the situation, of the of what's going on now. He still has a job to do. He's still got lots to do, and they got to get these hobbits to where they're going, right? Obviously. and he's got to go over to Gondor still. So like he's got to keep his head in the game. Gandalf's gone. That was an MVP. We'll do without hope. Fuck it. We can still like try our best and see what happens. And I think that's I think that's fantastic. You know, really puts him like in charge. You know, really forces him into that role of leadership that he needs to be in, kind of thing. I think.
And much to do, Aragorn leads the Fellowship to Lothlorien, where they would eventually come to Caras Galadhon and meet Celeborn and Galadriel. The rest of the company is amazed at Aragorn's friendship with the elves of this incredible realm. They would remain in Lorien for 1 month, leaving on February 16, 3019. Before their departure, Galadriel would bestow gifts upon the Fellowship. To Aragorn, she gives the Elfstone, serving as a wedding gift from the bride's family to the groom. This green gem would be worn by Aragorn ever after, fulfilling the prediction of his grandmother so many years ago.
I see.
Indeed,
That's
Aragorn
cool.
would take his royal name of Elisar from this very gem.
Cool.
For a week, the Fellowship travels by boat down the Anduin River, surviving a brief attack on February 23rd, before passing the Argonath, the Great Pillars of the Kings, on February 25th. Fear not, said a strange voice behind him. Frodo turned and saw Strider, and yet not Strider, for the weather-worn ranger was no longer there. In the stern sat Aragorn, son of Arathorn, proud and erect, guiding the boat with skillful strokes. His hood was cast back, and his dark hair was blowing in the wind. A light was in his eyes. A king, returning from exile to his own land. Fear not, he said. Long have I desired to look upon the likenesses of Isildur and Anarion, my sires of old. Under their shadow, Elisar, the Elfstone son of Arathorn of the House of Valandil, Isildur's son, heir of Elendil, has naught to dread. Despite his...
Very cool how like he looks back and it's him, but it's not him. I really like that quote too, because it shows like this confidence that he suddenly has. Not that he wasn't confident before, obviously, but like, you know, this like, this is my land, this is my people, you know, I'm here to free this land, I'm here to fight for it, I'm here to reclaim what's mine and prove that I am good enough, right? Kind of thing is what I'm trying to do here. We have a job to do, we're going to do it. We have to fight back the forces of evil, in this case Sauron, obviously. And you just kind of see that like character change right there, just for him returning to his own land, right? Like, it's been a long time since I've been here, and we're here to commit to business this time, you know? Like, this is what it is, right? Really, really like that.
Heir of Elendil has naught to dread. Despite his majestic appearance in Frodo's eyes, there is still great doubt in Aragorn's mind. While he wishes to go with Boromir to Minas Tirith, he now feels that with Gandalf fallen, he should accompany the Ring-Bearer wherever he should go. The following day, the company is attacked by orcs at Amon Hen. In the tumult, the 4 hobbits are lost, and Aragorn finds a mortally wounded Boromir, pierced with many arrows. Boromir tells Aragorn that the orcs took the halflings captive, and says, "Farewell, Aragorn. Go to Minas Tirith and save my people. I have failed." "No," said Aragorn, taking his hand and kissing his brow. "You have conquered. Few have gained such a victory. Be at peace. Minas Tirith shall not fall." Boromir smiled. "Which way did they go? Was Frodo there?" said Aragorn. But Boromir did not speak again. "Alas," said Aragorn, "thus passes the heir of Denethor, Lord of the Tower of God. This is a bitter end. Now the company is all in ruin. It is I that have failed. Vain was Gandalf's trust in me. What shall I do now? Boromir has laid it on me to go to Minas Tirith.
And you see
my
like this
heart
tragic
desires it.
fall.
But where are the ring and the bearer? How shall I find them and save this quest from disaster?" Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli
Like the
place
impossible
Boromir in
quote-unquote
one of the
challenge,
elven
right?
boats, his broken horn and sword across his lap, and the weapons of his vanquished foes at his feet. Singing a lament for Boromir, they set his funeral boat adrift in the Anduin, which would carry his body over the falls of Rauros and far beyond. Aragorn is able to discern that not only was Frodo not a captive of the orcs, but that he had taken the other elven boat across the river along with Sam. Finally, resolved in his decision, he, Gimli, and Legolas, the three hunters, speed through the trees, tireless and swift. Pursuing the orcs, they pass away, gray shadows in a stony land.
God damn.
The three hunters make their way across the western portion of
That's
Rohan,
like the GOAT team right there, bro.
the orcs toward Fangorn Forest.
I know Legolas is fucking insane too, so you got like three fucking Chads. Like, this right here is like a Total War, like Warhammer, like party in and itself right here. Like, these guys would fucking solo just an army of nobodies, you know what I mean? Like, goddamn, that's great to see. I love this phase here. I do recall, like, I think the end of the first movie, I believe, when Boromir dies there. And I know Sam and obviously Frodo kind of get away. They kind of like go from there to Mordor, right? If I recall. Very awesome to see like these three together. And again, I remember, I think Legolas from the Hobbit movie, and he's just a fucking badass in that. So that's awesome to see.
Rohan, following the orcs toward Fangorn Forest. Just over 3 days after leaving Amon Hen, they encounter Éomer on February 30th. Éomer is amazed to find they had traveled 45 leagues in just 3 days.
That's pretty
Aragorn
insane.
and Éomer form an easy friendship, each sensing the honesty and lordliness in the other. Rather than taking the intruders of Rohan captive, Éomer gives them horses, with Aragorn promising to return to Edoras. Aragorn would go on in an attempt to track the footsteps of Merry and Pippin, coming to Fangorn Forest itself. There, on March 1st, Aragorn's 89th birthday,
God
they
damn.
would not find the halflings, but a resurrected Gandalf the White. Aragorn accompanies the wizard to Edoras, fulfilling his promise to Éomer.
So what would be the lifespan of Aragorn in this case? Like, because 89 years old, you'd think that's like an old ass man. Like, how is he still getting around so much? But he still looks like pretty physically fit. Like, you look at like this picture, he looks pretty decent for his age. Like, I'm just saying, you know. So I'm just wondering, like, how long roughly would he be living? Like, you know, like, is it? I'm guessing we're not like still on like average human lifespan here. So somebody let me know for sure, because I'd love to know. Also sick that they're meeting Gandalf the White now here, I guess, instead of Gandalf the Grey.
They would not find the halflings, but a resurrected Gandalf the White. Aragorn accompanies the wizard to Edoras, fulfilling his promise to Éomer. After Gandalf heals Theoden, Aragorn would ride once more with a king of Rohan, as they marched to war with Saruman. After the retreating force from the fords of Isen tells them of Saruman's force marching towards them, the group makes for Helm's Deep. There, alongside Éomer, Aragorn would lead the men of Rohan in the defense of the Hornburg. They would hold out through the night of March 3rd into the morning of March 4th, when Gandalf arrives with Erkenbrand, turning the tide of battle, and with the help of the Huorns, utterly destroying Saruman's forces.
Their color scheme looks pretty sick. I like that green.
Gandalf and the others to Isengard, where they would parley with Saruman, now a captive in his own tower, thanks to the Ents. That night, Pippin would look into the Palantir of Isengard. Gandalf would then resolve to take Pippin, who Sauron believed to be the ring-bearer, to Minas Tirith. Before departing, he gives to Aragorn the Palantir, for it belongs to him by right as the heir of Elendil. The following day, Aragorn looks into the Palantir in an effort to strike a blow to the heart of Sauron. Sauron has not forgotten Isildur and the sword of Elendil. Now in the very hour of his great designs, the heir of Isildur and the sword are revealed. For I showed the blade reforged to him. He is not so mighty yet that he is above fear.
Right.
No, doubt ever gnaws him. While Gimli
That's what it's
points
about.
out that now
Plant fear in your enemy, you've already won.
Sauron will strike more swiftly, Aragorn replies, the hasty stroke goes oft astray.
Exactly.
He resolves that they must press the enemy. Aragorn is joined by the Grey Company, consisting of not only Dunedain Rangers of the North, but his old friends Elladan and Elrohir, the sons of Elrond. They bring to him a gift from the Lady Arwen, to be brought out in the coming days. As
Is it
they
the
arrive
sigil?
at Dunharrow, where the Rohirrim will muster their forces, Éowyn would reveal that she loved Aragorn. However, Aragorn would refuse to take her on the dark road that lay before him. As he would later state, it was only a shadow and a thought that she loved.
Damn.
Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and the Grey Company
That's kind of hard, though.
Of the Dead on March 8th, reaching the Stone of Erech on the other side of the mountains at midnight. He summons the Oathbreakers, the dead men of Dunharrow, cursed for thousands of years for their betrayal of Gondor in the days of Isildur. Over the next 3 days, Aragorn makes his way through the southern fiefs of Gondor, coming to Calimbel, then on the dawnless day crossing the Ringlow, and going on into Lebanon on March 11th. On March 12th, Aragorn, his company, and the dead men drive the invading corsairs back to Pelargir.
That's kind of crazy.
The following day, he captures their fleet.
So they have like an ethereal army alongside them now, in a sense. That's pretty fucking badass, I'm not gonna lie. I imagine that's very, very OP, and they probably use it to full fucking capability there. Oh my god. I'd shit myself. Like, what do you do against that?
Back to Pelargir, and the following day he captures their fleet. Unlike his encounter decades earlier, Aragorn would have little need for his sword, for that great weapon of the enemy was now used against his own servants. Fear. To every ship they came that was drawn up, and then they passed over the water to those that were anchored.
Holy shit.
And all the mariners
like, what do you do?
The madness of terror and leaped overboard.
I wonder why.
Save the slaves chained to the oars. Reckless we rode among our fleeing foes, driving them like leaves until we came to the shore. And then to each of the great ships that remained, Aragorn sent one of the Dunedain. And they comforted the captives that were aboard, and bade them put aside fear and be free. Aragorn takes the corsair vessels up the great river to Minas Tirith, and Arwen's gift is unfurled as they come to land. The great standard of Elendil.
That looks pretty good.
Éomer fighting on the Pelennor that doom had not come. Instead, the king had returned.
I gotta say, as far as like a standard goes, man, like that looks like a pretty badass standard. I'd fight for a standard that looks like that. Crown at the top with golden wings with the tree underneath, man, stars emblazoned there. Like that looks fucking good. And I like the dark kind of like navy blue, midnight blue kind of like color in the background with the white stands out really, really well.
Sauron's forces crumbled, and the men of the West are victorious.
Good unifier.
Furling his banner, Aragorn appoints Imrahil the temporary lord of the city, as Denethor was now dead, and Faramir yet lay afflicted in the houses of healing. While refusing to enter the city, so as not to appear to be seizing power, he would later sneak into Minas Tirith, where he would heal Faramir, Éowyn, and Merry, fulfilling the prophecy, "The hands of the king are the hands of a healer, and so shall the rightful king be known." Aragorn would work long into the night, healing more and more people as word spread. When the people of the city awoke the next morning, they saw the banner of Dol Amroth, for Imrahil had taken his place as temporary lord, leading the people to wonder if the king's return had been a dream. Aragorn holds a last debate with his most trusted leaders, including Gandalf, Éomer, Gimli, Legolas, Elladan, Elrohir, and Imrahil. At Gandalf's behest, they come to the conclusion they must draw the forces of Mordor forth in an effort to give Frodo easier passage across the desolate lands.
That would make sense.
On March 18th, the host of the West marches.
Get forces out of Mordor so they can ideally slip through undetected.
After a further 4 days of travel, as they leave Ithilien and draw closer to Mordor, Aragorn dismisses those who had become faint-hearted from the terror that lie around and before them.
Oh my god.
Them with the retaking of Caer Andros, showing both resolve and mercy. They come to the Black...
That's interesting. That's actually a really, really cool, like, piece of leadership, like, ability there. Like, okay, like, everyone's losing their fucking minds because they're approaching Mordor. That makes sense, right? You're approaching, like, the orc hordes. You really have to, like have some steel wits here. People are losing their fucking minds. So instead of, like, putting them to the sword, like showing execution in the face of cowardice, whatever have you, we're going to split those forces off. You're still loyal men. You're still good men. Go fucking take a keep. Go be useful. Go do anything else. Just get out of here. Stay alive. You know what I'm saying? We could still use you later. And they still are loyal to him and break off and do that. I think that's really, really sick. I'm not going to lie. not a situation that you would see happen very often by many other leaders. I think that's really, really cool.
Andros, showing both resolve and mercy.
Yeah.
They come to the Black Gate on March 25th, where they come face to face with the mouth of Sauron. "Is there anyone in this rout with authority to treat with me?" he asked. "Or indeed with wit to understand me? Not thou at least," he mocked, turning to Aragorn with scorn. "It needs more to make a king than a piece of elvish glass, or a rabble such as this. Why, any brigand of the hills can show as good a following."
Wow.
Aragorn said not in answer, but he took the other's eye and held it. And for a moment they strove thus, but soon, though Aragorn did not stir, nor move hand to weapon, the other quailed, and gave back as if menaced with a blow. "I am a herald and ambassador and may not be assailed," he cried.
Interesting.
Aragorn's mere gaze
Can't kill the
struck
messenger
fear
kind of
into
thing.
the heart of the mouth of Sauron, at the very gate of Mordor. Yet Aragorn's life would not be in his own hands, but in the hands of two halflings, and that of fate. The ring is destroyed at the cracks of doom, and after the ring bearers are rescued by the great eagles, Aragorn would heal Frodo and Sam at the field of Cormallen, bringing them back from the very brink of death. In the aftermath of the Battle of the Black Gate, Aragorn pardons all the Easterlings who had given themselves up and sends them away free. Aragorn
Interesting.
would return to Minas Tirith victorious, and on May 1st, 3019, he would be crowned King of Gondor.
I really like those actions, right? Because they're stability making actions. It makes sense, right? You're not going to kill them, because if you do that, guess what? Now you have how many other, countrymen that are going to rise up in revolt and start raiding your lands, doing all this. We just defeated a great evil. We need stability in the realm right now. We need peace right now so we can grow, so we can get our kingship underway, so we can make things fucking happen now. Like, we need to consolidate the realm, not divide it even further. Very, very wise decision there.
And on May 1st, 3019, he would be crowned King of Gondor, with Faramir announcing his return to the people. "Men of Gondor, hear now the steward of this realm. Behold, one has come to claim the kingship at last. Here is Aragorn, son of Arathorn, chieftain of the Dunedain of Arnor, captain of the host of the west, bearer of the star of the north, wielder of the sword reforged, victorious in battle, whose hands bring healing, the Elfstone, Elisar of the line of Valandil,
Quite the
Isildur's
titles.
son, Elendil's son of Númenor." In one of his first moves as king, Aragorn would not only have Faramir keep the role of steward, but appoint him Prince of Ithilien and Lord of Emin Arnen. Despite the defeat of Sauron and his becoming king against all hope, Aragorn is still troubled, fearing his wish to marry Arwen would not be granted.
Technically,
On June
he's done it
25th,
all.
Gandalf speaks with Aragorn, saying, "The third age was my age. I was the enemy of Sauron, and my work is finished. I shall go soon. The burden must now lie upon you and your kindred." "But
Interesting.
I shall die," said Aragorn, "for I am a mortal man, and though being what I am, and of the race of the West unmingled, I too shall grow old. And who then shall govern Gondor, and those who look to this city as to their queen, if my desire be not granted? The tree in the court of the fountain is still withered and barren. When shall I see a sign that it will ever be otherwise? Turn your face from the green world, and look where all seems barren and cold," said Gandalf. Thus Aragorn finds upon the slopes of Mount Mindolluin a sapling of Nimloth,
Wow.
and the white tree would grow in Minas Tirith once more. Despite his worries, Elrond and Arwen would indeed come to Gondor, arriving around June 30th, 3019. Elrond finally presents to Aragorn the scepter of Anuminas, signifying the kingship of Arnor. On Midsummer's Day, Aragorn and Arwen are wed, and the reunited
Finally.
kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor have both a king and a queen. On July
Damn, dude.
22nd,
He's been
Aragorn
seeking that
sets
out for
with the
like
remaining members
fucking
of the
70
Fellowship,
years of his
among
life, bro.
others, as part
That's
of
rough.
the funeral escort of King Theoden. On the way, they stop at the Greywood under Amondine. where he declares the Forest of the Druidine officially to belong to Gonborigon and his people, and that none shall enter it without their leave. On August 10th, a funeral is held for King Theoden in Edoras. They would leave 4 days later, bidding farewell to Eomer and the newly betrothed Eowyn and Faramir. On August 18th, they stop at Helm's Deep, before moving on their way and arriving at Isengard on August 22nd. It is here that the Fellowship would come to its end. Never again would all 8 remaining members be together.
Damn.
For Aragorn's part, he
It's
would
kinda
receive
sad,
the
actually.
keys of Orthanc from Treebeard, and while he would order the restoration of the tower and the return of the Palantir, he would declare the realm of Isengard to be an Entish realm, known afterward as the Treegarth of Orthanc. Within the tower during its restoration, they would discover the original Elendilmir, the Star of Elendil, which Isildur had worn when he was slain. Returning to Minas Tirith, Aragorn would re-establish the Great Council of Gondor. Chief among the king's counselors is his steward, Faramir. With Eomer, he would renew the oaths of Cirion and Eorl, swearing unending allegiance between their kingdoms. It is said in the early years of Aragorn's reign, Eomer would often fulfill his oath, while Southrons in the lands of Harad would come to make peace with and submit to the rule of King Elisar, and come to send embassies to Minas Tirith. The East would not so easily move beyond the influence of Sauron.
Gotcha.
The East was not only a frequent hiding place and focus of Sauron for hundreds of years at a time,
Yeah.
it was also a major focus for Morgoth in ancient days. While we know
I've heard that
not
name,
all
right.
Easterlings were loyal to Sauron, there would be remnants that would remain hostile to Gondor. As Tolkien states, for though Sauron had passed, the hatreds and evils that he bred had not died.
That makes
And the
sense.
King of the West had many enemies to subdue before the White
There's
Tree
going to be
could
many
grow.
Sauron sympathizers in the East, I
And wherever
imagine.
King Elisar went with war, King Eomer went with him. And beyond the Sea of Rhûn, and on the far fields of the south, the thunder of the cavalry of the Mark was heard. And white horse upon green flew in many winds until Eomer grew old. Together, these great kings of the West would make safe their kingdoms for generations to come.
Wow.
Thankfully, the final meeting of the Fellowship would not be the last time Aragorn would see many of his friends. In the year 15 of the Fourth Age, 17 years into his reign, Aragorn and Arwen visit the hobbits outside the Shire at the Brandywine Bridge. There he appoints the offices of Thane of the Shire,
Thane
Mayor
of the
Middle
Shire.
Delving, and Master of Buckland to be counselors of the North Kingdom.
Holy
The
shit.
very offices now held by Pippin, Sam, and Merry, respectively.
I had no idea. That's sick. So he literally just rolled up and fucking offered out titles. Like, hey, yeah, you're obviously a subject now of us. Clearly, right? Because what are you going to do? Fight back? Lol. So I'm going to name you Thane. You're going to be like the steward. You're just handing out fucking titles. That's so base, dude. Holy shit.
The very offices
Some nepotism
now
right
held by
there.
Pippin, Sam, and Merry, respectively. He also decrees that no one shall enter the lands of the Shire without the leave of the hobbits, and further extends the Shire to the Emin Baraid.
Oh, so he actually gives them
also
their own
learned
kingdom.
that Legolas
Wow.
would bring a group of elves out of Greenwood in the year 20 of the Fourth Age to dwell in Ithilien, which once again becomes the fairest country in all the Westlands. Both these elves and Gimli's dwarves of the Glittering Caves would assist in the restoration of Minas Tirith, with the dwarves specifically rebuilding the gates of Minas Tirith with mithril and steel.
God
Merry
damn.
and Pippin would also make a return to Gondor. After spending Eomer's last days with him in Edoras in the fall of the year 63, the two friends come to Minas Tirith. Pippin brings with him a copy of the Red Book of Westmarch, which Aragorn had requested. In Minas Tirith, they would spend the remaining few years with Aragorn. Upon their deaths, they are laid to rest in Rath Dinnan, the burial place of the kings and stewards of Gondor. King
Damn, dude.
Elisar would die over 50 years after Merry and Pippin.
Damn.
On March 1st, 120 of the Fourth Age. At
Holy
210
shit.
years of age, he had ruled over the
Oh my
reunited
God.
kingdom for 122 years. When his body is placed in Rath Dinnan, Merry and
Guess that
Pippin
answers that.
celebrate
210
the
years
sun.
is crazy,
Most
dude.
significantly,
Holy shit.
Aragorn voluntarily lays down his life when his time has come, a practice of the great kings of Numenor of old, who embraced the gift of men rather than resented it. After her husband's death, Arwen would lay down her mortal life in Lothlorien, upon the very hill of Caren Emroth, where she and Aragorn had professed their love for one another. As for Aragorn and Arwen's children, there would be one son, Eldarion, his heir, and at least 2 daughters. These children would be the first descendants of the royal house of Telcontar, this great and noble line, founded with the returning king, whose hands brought healing, who won great renown in war, and saw the downfall of Sauron, is translated from Telcontar in Quenya to the common tongue, Strider.
That's cool.
Now, being resourceful
That's
is
really
why I
cool.
love the survival belt from Slide Belts. Not only does this belt feature an LED flashlight for dark moments, but also a stainless steel
Let's see about
knife,
these belts
a fire
now,
starter,
real quick.
and a bottle opener.
That's a really cool ending. Wow.
Of Slide Belt's ratcheting buckle. And right now, you can save 20% off your order just by using the code NerdOfTheRings.
Holy
For
shit.
some of the best belts you'll ever find, go to slidebelts.com. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible.
Of course,
Tom
of course.
Bombadil 19, Listen Me the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Andrew Carlisle, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description.
Do love the
to
artwork
purchase
in this
prints of
video.
their great work for yourself.
They're sick.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.
Wow, guys, that was awesome. That was the complete travels of Aragorn by Nerd of the Rings. What an awesome video. And wow, just to know how that ends. Had a very sad, but like very like, you know, relatable ending. Like a very like calm ending. You know what I'm saying? Like the end of his story. You know, he died peacefully, I guess. His wife loved him so much, she died peacefully. He left children to carry on his line. They would eventually form a great line. The fact that their last name translated to the common tongue just means Strider after like his early days, what he accomplished, right? Damn, I thought that was a great story. And just like everything he got up to in his life, like he, you know, obviously didn't do as much as Gandalf, just with his age, obviously, but like for just a human, like, man, guy's doing a lot. I guess like a half-blood human, you know. Somebody let me know exactly how that works. 1/10, you know what I'm saying? Like how exactly that works. But no, that was a great video. Big thank you to Fear for that recommendation. That was awesome to see. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more content from me, and of course leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Big thank you to all of our members, of course, all of our Hastati, our Principes, of course, Dagenhart and Hobbit, and of course our Prefect Fear. I appreciate you guys. You guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day, of course. And with that, guys, without any further delay, this has been Centurion, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, guys.